Like with my recent review or first impression videos, I want to start off with this too long didn't watch section because I know not everyone wants to or has the time to watch an entire video in order to figure out whether a board is worthwhile to purchase. Feel free to use the timestamps and chapters to skip around as well. Really quick, I want to apologize for any video or audio issues. I'm recording this with a less than ideal setup because I'm going on vacation. And by the time this video comes out, I've already hit the road. And I packed up my usual audio and video devices when I made this video. And also, so what I believe is important when I make these videos is not necessarily the preference-based aspects of the board, but whether there are any QC issues, issues in general, or any problems that I encountered. Because at the end of the day, those are not preference-based, while things such as aesthetics, sound, and feel are. So the link is a split ergonomic, or Ergo, keyboard designed and sold by CannonKeys with its group buy set to start on May 16th. It's based on the Soffel 58 V2, which is another split Ergo keyboard. And I know my unit was just a prototype, but from what I saw, there aren't any issues with the anodization. I didn't see any sort of banding, the finish was very smooth, and there weren't super large grainy areas anywhere. The scuffs and scratches that I did see will not be present for the group buy and production run units, and in my opinion, are just issues that stem from the unit being shipped multiple times across the United States and handled by many content creators before me. There is a wired variant that is QMK compatible and is $245, and a wireless variant that uses ZMK, and that's $275. According to Upas, there will be a tenting kit that will be open sourced, and the one that he tested added a 3.5 degree angle to the board. The typing angle for the board without the tent is 0 degrees. Plus, there may or may not be a possibility that said tenting kit will be offered as an add-on during the group buy. No matter what, it's going to be open sourced, so that's awesome. But the last I heard, Upas is still considering whether to have a super cheap 3D printed variant as an add-on during the group buy. Also, if the link sells 300 units, the wired PCBs will also be open sourced. In my opinion, if you like split Ergo offerings, but don't yet have one that's a nice aluminum case, and you can afford it, this is a great buy. While DIY and soldering is very much a love of mine and others in the hobby, the fact that all you have to do is attach some foam pieces, put your switches into the plate and PCB, then screw the internals into the case makes it super easy to build if soldering isn't your thing. Should you spend $245 or $275 on this if you've never typed on a split Ergo board? Well, that's for you to decide. Personally, if it was for me, I'd rather go for a super cheap alternative or borrow a friend's split Ergo to make sure that I enjoy the layout before I buy a pricier split Ergo like the Link. But hey, if you can afford it and it looks appealing, go for it. It's your wallet and it's your life. Just make sure to be financially responsible, as always. I'll get into this later during the firmware process portion of this video, but I'm unsure whether there will be a JSON file to sideload into VIA in order to remap the PCBs easily in VIA, or if you have to go the old-fashioned method, creating a bin file in QMK, then flashing said file using QMK Toolbox. It's definitely something to ask Upas or someone at CannonKeys about, or wait until the group buy starts, because while the QMK method isn't hard by any means, I think it's safe to say that using VIA is much more user-friendly, even if you have to sideload a JSON. If you don't have uniform keycaps, CannonKeys will offer a Penguin Belly Slide or PBS profile keycap set for the Link that was designed by Beep for $35 during the group buy. Now, can you use a split Ergo without uniform keycaps like I did? Yeah, you can, but I think it's safe to say that usually people use uniform keycaps with split Ergos, and it's nice that CannonKeys will offer a set. And last but not least, please remember to be financially responsible. It's never worth it to put yourself in debt just to buy a keyboard. Don't let FOMO dictate your purchasing habits. And with that being said, let's move on to the next part of this video, the disclaimer portion. The disclaimer portion has evolved throughout my videos. At first, I used to spend a super long time going through disclaimers, especially those first few videos, since those were the first videos I had ever done where I needed to include a disclaimer section. Nowadays, you already know what I'm all about. While I am a CannonKeys content partner, I don't get paid to create content. whether it be videos, pictures, or anything. CannonKeys reaches out to me whenever they have a board or project that they want me to cover. I either say, yeah, I'll do it, or I'll pass. They ship out the board or have the content creator that currently has the board shipped out to me. Then I ship it out to the next content creator or back to CannonKeys HQ in Rhode Island. Do I have to say anything specific or gloss over problems or issues that I find with the boards? Nope. Do I sacrifice any sort of editorial control or I'm forced to say nice things only? Absolutely not. There's no money being handled. I don't have an affiliate code. I simply get to cover cool shit, and the experience of covering said item is the only benefit that I get. Honestly, that's the dream. I get to try out cool projects and then share my opinions on them without ever having to worry about getting paid or money being an issue. With that being said, let's move on to the specs. You can absolutely just go to the CannonKeys or Geek Hack pages instead of listening to me explain this portion of the video, or you can skip to another portion of the video. That's totally fine. For those of you that would rather have me talk through the specs, however, let's get started. So I touched on a fair number of specs in the too long didn't watch portion of this video, but there will be 5 colors: black, orange, burgundy, silver, and this green that I have, with each color being anodized. There is a wired variant that's $245 and a wireless variant that's $275. Both variants have a left and right case, obviously, left and right hot swap, since there is no solder variant, PCB with a rotary encoder module for your knobs, 2 silver brass knobs, 2 polycarbonate plates, pour-on gaskets, bump-ons, a USB-C to USB-C cable to connect the 2 cases, the usual CannonKeys microfiber cloth, screws, and a carrying case. The only difference between the wired and wireless versions, besides the wireless version coming with 2 batteries, and depending on the region, if you're an international buyer, it might not come with batteries, and obviously being wireless, is the fact that you will not get the OLED screens if you go for the wireless variant. You can buy the screens as add-ons if you buy the wireless variant, but as a default, you'll get these screen covers instead. It's a 0-degree typing angle unless you buy the tented kit or print out a tented kit for yourself, since the tented kit will be open sourced. The PCBs are 1.2 millimeters thick, and it's tray mount, but with gaskets that the PCBs will sit on as well. And basically you attach the adhesive pour-on gaskets to either the PCBs or inside of the cases, and then you screw in your PCBs through the plate like a normal tray mount case into the cases. In terms of add-ons and extras, you can buy extra hot swap PCBs, wireless PCBs, screens, aluminum, FR4, and carbon fiber plates, extra knobs, and so on. If you need a uniform profile keycap set, you have the option to also buy a $35 Penguin Belly Slide, or PBS for short, keycap set designed by Beep, called PBS Modern Abacus, or PBS Moab for short. Speaking of Moab, that's where I'm going on vacation. Anyways, do keep in mind that if you buy the Link variant of the Moab kit, it will only come with enough keycaps to fit the Link. And there are 2 kits for that Link. One with sublegends and one without. There's also a 40s kit and a base kit. Just make sure that you buy the kit that you want to buy in order for you to not be surprised when you realize that you bought a Link specific kit that only has keycaps to fit a Link, but you expected a base kit. I don't know how much the 40s and the base kits will be, but the 2 Link kits will be $35 each. Alright, let's get to the firmware section of this video. Normally, when CannonKeys sends out things for content creators to make content on, it's a 2-week period for the most part, before said content creator has to ship it to the next content creator or back to CannonKeys HQ in Rhode Island. When Martin from CannonKeys reached out to me asking if I wanted to cover the Link, I was about to go on vacation, so I told him that I wouldn't be able to give the Link the normal amount of time that I usually give boards, such as the AK-75 that he sent me a few months ago to make content on, and other non-CannonKeys boards, of course. I said that if that was fine with him, then I'd cover the board, and he said go for it. Well, why did I bring this up? Because I technically did not give the Link the proper time it deserved, and for that I apologize. I made sure that I wasn't hurting another content creator by agreeing to cover the Link, but I still feel a little guilty. Because, due to the lack of time, which was totally on me, there were 2 issues that I had that I think I could have fixed if I had more time. And again, this is totally on me. It's not on CannonKeys at all. The first issue that I had was that the right side PCB's second from the bottom row was faulty. It does not register at all. Now, why was that? Well, I absolutely have no idea. It uses Gateron hot swap sockets, and while I'm experienced with soldering and mil-maxing, I have never soldered hot swap sockets myself or dealt with assembling them on PCBs. The sockets themselves look fine, no signs of them being popped off or damaged, but I will say that these prototype units did not come in a hard case. The group buy units will. When this arrived at my doorstep, it was in a simple CannonKeys box, and the units were loose. So it's possible that USPS might have damaged the PCB during transit, but I have no idea. And I'm also not blaming any content creators that had this unit before me. Not that I know who did have them. And again, I'm not blaming CannonKeys. I'm sure the content creators that had this unit before me did not have an issue with the right side PCB. All I know is that a row did not work, and unfortunately, that was the row where the N, M, comma, period, and question mark are all on in the traditional SOFL 58 layout. Whether it was USPS or some other issue, that row simply does not work, as you'll see in my typing test. The second issue that I had was related to this first issue. I thought, okay, maybe it's just a remapping issue, or maybe I could just reflash it. Well, when plugging this in and bringing up VIA, it doesn't automatically bring up the design or layout tab, so you're going to have to sideload the JSON. Unfortunately, I couldn't seem to find a JSON for this, which makes sense because it's a prototype. And so I thought maybe I can just reflash it using the QMK toolbox and the correct bin file. Well, in the end, I didn't want to flash the incorrect bin file and I couldn't find the correct bin file, so I ended up not doing that either. What does this mean in the grand scheme of things besides my row not working? I'm sure that by the time the group buy units are received by you, the buyers, there will be a JSON for this PCB, so you can sideload the JSON file into VIA and remap your layout without having to do what the original SOFL and other boards require, which was using QMK and eventually QMK Toolbox to flash new key maps. Just know that for me personally, I didn't find said JSON file and I didn't want to accidentally flash the incorrect bin file via QMK Toolbox. Here's the default key map for the SOFL 58, which was what my unit was formatted as. And while I didn't know why that row wasn't working, I let CannonKeys know to let the next content creator know that the row wasn't working. Anyways, let's get to the build process. The build process is super simple. It was even more so for me because whoever had the unit before me had already installed the gaskets on the PCB. And you can install the gaskets either directly on the PCB itself or in the cases, since I do see small indents in the case where they go. The rotary encoders already had the two brass CannonKeys logo knobs installed as well, but even if you had to install them yourselves, it's pretty easy to do with a 1.5 hex bit. Since these PCBs are hot swap only, you basically place your plate on the PCB. This unit had two FR4 plates, but the group buy units will have two polycarbonate plates as the default options. You install your switches, then screw in the PCB through the plate into the bottom of each case with screws. Tray mount. Then you place your keycaps on. Then use the USB-C to USB-C cable to attach the two cases together, and then plug in your case via USB-C to your computer. Super easy. Yes, soldering everything yourself and assembling a SOFL 58 is pretty fun, but I also appreciate how CannonKeys purposely made both PCBs hot swap and how they made the whole build process super simple and clean. Now speaking of clean, let's get to the aesthetics portion of this video. I think this is arguably the most important aspect of the link. Why? Because SOFLs and split Ergo boards don't necessarily need fancy housings, and many people simply use them without a case. I saw that a lot when I was at the Iowa keyboard meetup, where I also brought the link, and a lot of people just had split Ergos that were PCBs, switches, and keycaps. A huge selling point for the link is that you can get a super nice aluminum case. Yes, you sacrifice weight compared to a split Ergo without a case at all, or a low profile case, or a lighter case, but it's the reason why I'm buying a link unit for my friend. She has a bunch of split ergo boards, but she doesn't have a, quote, fancy one. Fancy as in one that's housed in a nice aluminum case. In my opinion, this unit is super nice, especially because it was green. And while I know that most people won't use GMK keycaps for these, GMK British Racing Green Round 2 fit the case color perfectly. The two brass knobs look super nice as well. Next, let's look at the sound. So I usually make super long sound test videos, as you know. I started with an hour, and then it was 3.5 hours, and now my usual sound test videos are 8 to 10 hours long. Well, with the Link, I didn't feel like I had to make a long sound test video. Why? Well, first of all, I don't have any uniform profile keycaps, which are what most people will use. I only have cherry profile keycaps, so I don't think a super long sound test video is worthwhile in my case. And most people, at least the people that I've spoken to, don't buy or use split ergo keyboards because of sound. It's not that they don't sound good, but sound is not really super important to those that I talked about in the split ergo portion of the hobby. For me, if I were to buy a split ergo board, sound would be the least of my concerns. All I can say is that the Link, in terms of sound, doesn't have any sort of hollowness or pinginess that you sometimes may get with a tray mount board, and I'm guessing it's thanks to the gaskets. People attribute super stiff typing experiences with tray mount, and while some boards implement tray mount in a way that tries to make that typing experience softer, it's a general characteristic of tray mount. Not every tray mount board has a stiff typing experience, but a good amount of them do. With the Link, it's not extremely stiff and it's actually quite pleasant to type on. Is it a soft typing experience by any means? No, but it's also not fatiguing. I don't really have much else to go over in terms of feel, other than it is a stiff typing experience, and unless you have serious carpal tunnel or something, you're not going to have an issue dailying this for hours on end. And speaking of end, let's get to my thoughts and the end of this video. I want to emphasize once more that these were all my thoughts. Like I said at the beginning, most of our hobby is preference based, so the only things, in my opinion, that are really important, at least when it comes to these reviews, are for content creators to state whether there are actual issues with the item. Be it QC, faulty units, damage or scuffs, missing items, so on and so forth. The rest of our reviews, or at least my reviews, are purely our opinions and are not as important as pointing out serious flaws or issues. When it comes to the Link, I did not run into any issues related to the board at all. Again, the only significant issue that I had was the dead row on the right PCB, and even that was probably just shipping or USPS issues, and that the proto units are not shipping in actual hard cases. Again, the group buy units absolutely will be in hard cases. As a matter of fact, I'm actually shipping this Link to the next content creator in one of my aftermarket cases that I have laying around, instead of just using the box that it came in, because like I said before, the Link was just flopping around in that box, and I don't want it to get damaged even more. I didn't see any issues with the Anno, any QC flaws, and nothing that would make me hesitant to buy the Link. Well, I mean, if you can't afford it, don't buy it, but yeah. And if you simply want to try out the layout, don't buy the Link if you don't know whether you'll like it or not. There are so many split ergo options that are cheaper if price is your only concern, and if you don't know whether you'll like it or not. But if you can afford it, don't want to deal with soldering, want a super easy build process, a wireless option as well, and a really nice aluminum cased split ergo board with the option to tent, hell yeah, the Link is a fantastic offering. Again, I'm buying one as a gift for my friend who doesn't have a super nice split ergo in an aluminum case. If I were buying this for myself, I would go for a cheaper variant or borrow a friend's split ergo just so I could test the layout first. But if I know that I enjoy split ergos, specifically the Soffel 58, and I knew that I was able to financially afford the Link and I wanted a nice split ergo, I'd absolutely buy the Link. Thanks for watching. I love you all, and see you next time.